Got my shiny new whip. Anyway, this is the donor for the Rambler. Looks pretty bad. It's supposed to, kind of, you know. Honestly, it wasn't quite as bad. But my friend, I think he misunderstood me. He thought I was trying to get to the car behind it. And he started manhandling this one with the forklift. So he knocked out the window and crushed the door and tore the fender half off and put the fork through the radiator. It's fine. You can see that wasn't in great shape anyway. But chassis wise, it's got new struts in it. Ball joints loose. Spangled from every angle and not with sprinkles. It's got 3 newish looking tires on it and 1 bald one. 229,000 miles on it. It's got all the equipment that I want. Probably none of the stuff I don't want. I plan on using all of it, except for maybe the airbag stuff in the Rambler. Power windows even. If I have to cut the inner doors out, fine. I don't feel guilty about ruining good doors. Yeah. So I gotta get back to work, but there were some issues that I ran into messing with this, and I was not expecting, but nothing real big, other than the engine is blown up. Judging on the smell of the oil and the smell of the coolant, it was overheated to death. But even if I have to put an engine in it, it's worth it. I may even do that K engine swap that all the Honda boys are talking about. So we'll see. Good to me. Radiator cap. I'm gonna shut it off and we'll get some water. See all that caca. Gotta miss. Okay. I'm not doubting it. It's got bad coils. They're all horrible. Okay, I'm gonna go pull that little chunk out of there, go get some water, see what happens. I've developed a terrible habit of doing work without filming it, or videoing it, or however the hell you want to say it. I don't know why. Anyway, I'm feeling pretty burned out on the golf cart right now. I haven't been well the last couple weeks, and you know, with all the crap yesterday with the cat, you know, I figured instead of sitting in the house doing nothing, I can come over here and do something. So I'm kind of dinking around with this Honda. I've got the dashboard out. I was trying to keep it in one piece in case I had to use it, but now we've gone past the point of no return and we're gonna have to use it. So there's the Rambler dash. I have another one, so if I mess this one up, then we're okay. I've modified the gauge cluster slightly. I cut this piece of the black out. I'll have to get a flat piece of plastic, drill it for the 2 knobs. And I modified the opening slightly. I need to do a little more there. I think I need to open it up just a little bit on top, and then that'll be good. Looks like I'm going to have to cut that out right there. But so far, I think we're doing okay. Now, obviously, it's not going to come anywhere near the front there, which is fine because the Rambler windshield's going to be way back here anyway. I need to finish taking my measurements. Some people might look at this thing and go, but why don't you, make the thing run before you commit to doing the swap? Well, there is that. Where'd all my pieces go? Anyway, so yeah, it looks like I'm gonna have to notch that. I really didn't want to do that, but anyway. So, I appear to have dropped my set that back there so it doesn't get damaged. I bought a set of coils for it. I bought the cheapest coils I could find because I don't want to invest a bunch of money in something that may or may not work. Oh, there they are. So, like I said, people might ask, why don't you make this thing work? Why don't you make it run first? You know, well, there you go. You hear that? The blend door actuator, mode door actuator is bad. So that can get changed before all this gets done. Filters actually don't look too dirty. This will be the first car I've ever owned that actually has them. So, sounds pretty good to me. I gotta finish cutting this out. I gotta leave this piece in. One, because it ties everything together. Two, because the steering column hangs off of it. I would have to build a new something to hold it up. And three, because I think the pedals might hang off of it too. So, yeah. I'm going to mark that to get it cut out, and then I'll have to build something to cover it. We should see. So I don't really know how this is going to work out in the with the Rambler body. As you can see, the shape of the inside of the car goes out, so it's a lot wider at the bottom than it is at the top. It's actually narrower at the top. And this, I don't know how far forward it has to go body-wise. I do know that the front of the windshield is going to be out roughly where the cowl is. It does look like I need to take those brackets off and get this thing just like all the way up against that heater box there. And that's a deal breaker. I have to be able to run that heater. So if I have to actually add metal to the back of this and bring it out, so be it. I don't think I'm going to have to though, because again, I think that windshield edge is going to be underneath the cowl, so I'll probably have to cap that off somehow, figure out how to tie the HVAC in to it. Ugh, I don't know, but I want all that to work like it's supposed to. But I mean, we're pretty well past the point of no return, putting the Honda dash back in. I really don't want to run a modern dash, because you'll lose defroster and all that, but that's not really something I need to worry about at the moment. That can all be actually figured out after that's swapped. The dashboard anyway. The cowl will have to be figured out probably as we're doing it. Do as much as I can before we cut them apart. My goal is to get this car completely cut up before winter. I don't remember when the class starts. I think the next class starts in September, so that's way too early, but if I can get it ready for the winter class, have this thing completely cut down to where it's just the chassis, the firewall, the engine compartment, head gasket put in, running, driving, everything mechanically sound, then haul them both down to the school and do the swap there, because the school will actually have the lift. As long as somebody isn't monopolizing it, I can get in there and lift the body off, roll this one underneath it, get in there, start, you know, trimming the little edges and all that stuff up, and eventually get it tied together. And they got good welders down there, so get it all tied together, get as much welding as I possibly can get done before class is out, and then get it titled, tagged, and start driving it. And then I can deal with, like, I could drive it with just the gauge cluster sitting there. You know, I mean, I can deal with the dashboard afterwards. I can deal with interior afterwards. I can deal with, you know, all this stuff afterwards. I plan to run the center console, because obviously, what are you going to do with that? I'm going to run the center console. I want to run that little insert that goes in there that's got the cigarette lighter on it. And then I'll have to tie it to the dash, which is why I want to keep that stuff. So if I have to chop that off to get that up as far to the heater box as possible, that was my soda, then I can actually just make some little brackets and bolt those to the bottom of the dash, and that would work out nice. This, if I take this radio delete plate off, cut everything out behind it, and actually weld it as flush as I possibly can to the dash, maybe even cut this out and just make this smooth, then I might be able to run the Honda HVAC controls, because these ones are going to be the hard ones to run. It's supposed to sit like that at an angle, and I thought about moving them over here to the where the original Rambler stuff was, but I'd have to mount this thing like this, and I don't know. I mean, all the knobs would be sideways. These will be easy peasy. Drill 3 holes in somewhere, probably right here where these 3 holes are. Drill 3 holes, figure out the exact spacing of the bolt holes that hold it on, weld bolts to the back, and then thread a washer onto them, figure out the depth of the switch, get that nut set, and then put a nut on the other side, Loctite the bottom nut, epoxy the bottom nut, do whatever I gotta do, and then they'll sit nice. But if I'm gonna do that, then I may as well put, you know, the other controls there as well. Maybe those would fit here. I don't think they will, but it's kind of weird having all the HVAC controls on the left side of the dash. But that was a Rambler thing. You know, they were all like that. And then some other cars were. I remember the Mavericks were all way over here too. Anyway, I think that's all I'm going to do tonight, though. I'm going to get my mess picked up, get this all shut down, get the battery disconnected, just in case, and call it a night. So I started kind of poking around the Rambler parts car. I got the fenders off of it, took that off of the white one. Obviously, it's getting bent, so that's unfortunate. But I just kind of wanted to see. I was still worried about the radiator locating on this. And with the wheels roughly in the center of the fender well, roughly, probably go back a little bit more. I have to straighten that out. As you can see, that is a problem. I mean, it may not be a problem, but it's a problem right now. If this is a cowl, yeah, so most of that's going to be underneath the cowl. Hopefully I'll be able to tie it to the HVAC there, but that's a different problem. That's in the future. So right now we're roughly in the center there. You come out here, and so obviously that's going to have to be moved. And so this very edge here is going to be tight, but it's going to clear the radiator without moving the radiator. So that's good. The condenser, on the other hand, might be a little tighter. As you can see, it's destroyed. But probably have to replace those. Have to fix all this. That's going to be incredibly tight. Well, maybe not. The bottom is sitting there pretty close to the edge of the radiator. The top part, I think, once all that stuff is moved. Anyway, if that's where it's going to sit, it'll clear. So yeah, I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be fine. Okay, for right now, what I need to do is get all this picked up, put on the scrap pile, get this taken off, taken apart, see if I can't straighten that back out. I hope so, because the green one had that pretty big dip in it. I stepped on it yesterday and straightened it out quite a bit, so, I mean, it's so thin, obviously, you see how bad it's bending just from messing with it. Whew. Yeah, this is going to be cool. I kind of had a dirty thought that I might take the green car, chop it up, and turn it into a golf cart, but that's a whole other story. That's a whole other story I'm not even going to think about right now. So right now I'm going to go ahead and get this stuff cleaned up. Man, I can't believe I did all this work and I didn't film anything. Or maybe I thought I filmed stuff and just didn't actually hit the record button, but check this out. So, as you can see, I got the Honda chopped up. I bought this expensive ass glass cutter tool. It's somewhere in here to cut the seal out, and it would not cut the back window for nothing. And the windshield, it cut just fine. But for some odd reason, we got down around here and it cracked the windshield, which sucks because that windshield was maybe a year old. I was hoping to sell it, whatever. So that's why it broke that window when I took the roof up and broke the windshield. Anyway, I got it assembled enough that I can drive it in there, and I made the cut and I didn't notice any movement at the cut, but when I put my foot down on the rocker, the cut moved. So I went ahead and I had to piece this back together, but hopefully it's strong enough not to let it move. I still need to clean off all the sheet metal on the back, but we're starting up here. So I went ahead and assembled the front clip from the 61. And my reasoning for that, we assembled it. I mean, nothing's like really adjusted in perfect position, but I wanted to get it on the front of the car and kind of see how it looked. Now, going off of the specs, like the wheel track especially, I thought the wheels were going to be way inside the fender. And it turns out that's not the case. So the stock wheels that are on it, there really isn't any space to put anything much fatter than that on there. So if I found something, I don't know, sporty-ish, or maybe some stock BMW wheels might work, but those Bassett wheels that I was looking at, there's no way in hell those things would fly. So I was worried about doing that and having it affect the way it drives by putting the center line of the wheel way out here. That's not going to be a problem anymore because I can't do it, which is fine. I just went ahead and put a tech screw to hold things in position. The strap was just to hold the width where it needs to be. So, I mean, roughly, I'm not sure about the height of the front, which I think is about where it needs to be. And if I go with this, there's plenty of space for everything up front. Not enough to add a fan to it, but I don't think I need to worry about that. So, end of the fender. And no, the windshield is not here. The windshield is 22 inches from the back edge of this hole, which puts it about here-ish. Yeah, so this is where the windshield's going to be, which is great for this distance. That works out fine. But all this is going to be under the hood, because you see this is where the hood ends. So everything here is going to be under the hood. That is a problem. So the way it sits right now, my plan was to just take a piece of sheet metal, you know, chunk of the Valiant, whatever, and cut it out to fit that, put a couple screws, you know, a few screws to hold it down, seal it, but then I'd put pieces of pipe, weld in, you know, cut the hole, welded them in, and that would go to my ducts. You know, it would have to Y here or whatever, but I got a mosquito trying to eat me. Same thing with the defroster. Since they use hoses anyway, that would be perfect. The problem is the wiper motor, where it sits. So the wiper motor sits in there, and that is roughly 7 inches from the top up here down here to the bottom. And I did some measuring, and it looks like maybe the bottom edge of that will sit just right above that heater box, but there is not enough room for me to run anything off of it. And that heater box, I think that heater box will be right underneath that. So that's a problem, something I need to figure out. One of the other problems is because of this shape here, how narrow it is up here and how wide it is down here. We'll use this piece of garbage. So the Honda comes in roughly here. And so that'll be easy enough. All I really need to do is just weld a piece of plate in and connect it to the Honda inner rocker and the Rambler inner rocker. Done, and I'll have to probably gusset something on the bottom. No big deal. The problem is down here, you've got all this space, and the Honda kick panels and all that stuff are going to be based off of that pinch weld right there from the inner to the outer rocker. So yeah, I'm going to have to figure out and probably plate this or something. I don't know. But I think that's going to be okay, and I think this is all going to be okay so far. One of the other things that I was worried about, so here, you know, where the fender's bolt on, and then as you can see, the strut goes under it. Not really much you can do about that. As it is right now, though, you can still service it. Now, the struts look pretty new in this car. They are monochromatic, or Sensatrack or whatever. They're Monroe struts, so they should be okay for quite a while. But you can't do anything with that so that you can't get to it. So I did some measuring, at least where it's sitting right now. And it looks like it's going to be fine. So it'll clear it. I might have to cut a little notch, you know, so you can get access to the nut, but that's fine. This, however, will not work. There's no space to dip down that far for the hinge. Roughly it needs to stay about flat, which isn't the end of the world because, one, I don't have to have the spring. It's one of the reasons why these are so big. If I could figure out a way to make the Honda hinge work, that would be fine. But I think what I could do, maybe, since those two bolts are up there that high, there might be enough room to just cut it off right below those bolts and be okay. There may even be enough room to do something behind here, like bring this up and over and actually put the bolt holes up higher, or at least the back bolt hole up higher, take the spring out and have it work. That's fine. Not a big deal. But that's where we're at with that. One of the other problems with the wiper motor, you can see it here, inside here. It's completely exposed to the weather. It doesn't even have a plate over it protecting it. Now, I've already started modifying the Honda wiper motor. So, that was part of the old vacuum motor. And I had this whole thing planned to show you guys how the vacuum motors work versus how the electric motors work, but I didn't record it and it's too late now. Anyway, so the vacuum motor, the vacuum goes into it. There's a flap inside there and there's a valve on either end. So when the vacuum goes into it, it pulls the motor in one direction, and then it closes the valve, opens the other valve, and pulls it back. And then it closes the valve, opens the other valve, and so forth. So it just goes back and forth, back and forth. And so since that car has the opposing wiper blades, so the left wiper blade goes like that, the right wiper blade goes like that, instead of them both going in the same direction. One rod would go to that one, the other rod went to that one. So just taking an electric motor, putting it in there, putting this rod on there wouldn't work, because the electric motors spin. And they act like a locomotive wheel and piston. So you've got basically the wheel and the rod, and the piston over here goes in and out. So this is your wheel. And the linkage attaches to it as your rod, goes over to the wiper spindle, quill, whatever the hell you want to call it, hub, and that would be your piston movement. But I've got two of them, so what do I do? Well, what I do is I get this ball out of here, drill it out, and since this is so small and I want to keep the factory bushings, I'd use a 3/16 bolt or machine screw. So I'm going to drill right through this, right through that, and then cut it off. And then you put both of them on here. And then so as this thing's spinning, it's moving the rod in and out. It's just going like this, right? So it's moving the end of the rod in and out, which is turning that quill. And so there may be some geometry issues between how much throw it's going to have here, bug, and how much throw it's going to have there. Once upon a time, my old red 70 Dodge, the one I traded for this truck, 70, so it had, both the wiper blades went like that, but I liked the ones that oppose themselves. So a 67, they oppose themselves like this one does, except it's got a broken quill on one side. So I took the quill and the cowl plate and the linkage arm, and I made the 70 motor work because everything was wired for the 70 motor. Everything was already there. The problem is the throw on the arm was different on the one side. So the left wiper worked just fine because it was all factory. The right wiper went a lot further, and it still worked fine, but it just, you're sitting there behind the wheel and one of them's going like this and the other one's going like that. It didn't go off the edge on either side, but it just went further than it was supposed to. Not a big deal. So we'll see. So I've got this thing all designed to go. I'll have to make a spacer. Have to make a little spacer for here and longer bolts to give the motor a little more clearance. I'm going to weld this back onto it because we don't need to have it removable. This was fixed where this comes off. I need to plug this thing back in and get it to go to the park position and then mark it. That way I know that it's in park, and then I can put this thing on wherever I need it to be. It won't be like I put it all together and then suddenly the wipers will move. So it'd be like that. Stick out a little bit. I'm going to have to make something to cover it because it's not, even though in the Honda it was kind of in the weather, it was covered, so it wasn't completely exposed. Here it'll be rained on. It'll be right there in the weather. So I need to make a cover. But like I showed you, 7-inch drop on that cowl. This wiper motor, we'll take this, is gonna be sitting about right there. So everything on this side of it is you can't do anything with. And that is probably still going to be too tall. It probably needs to sit down like that. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what else I can do short of figuring out a way to move the wiper motor over here and having it still work. I don't know. But that's one of the things I'm dealing with. So that's where we're at. It looks like all of this is going to fit if I go with the fenders where they're at. I think they're about an inch further back than I'd like them to be, and I could probably find an inch up here. I think I could. Because there's definitely, well, because this is actually pretty well bent though too. But I think you could find an inch in there. But we're already so far back there, I think I'm just going to call it good, because everything clears pretty nice. You know, we're going to have to figure something out for the power steering reservoir, and the battery will fit under that piece. It's fine. I don't think we're going to use any of the Rambler pieces here. Maybe we will cut them down. I don't know. Maybe I'll just put a piece of flat plate back there just to hide all that space. Yeah. Yeah, that's the disappointment. So this is probably more of a problem because front-wheel drive on a rear-wheel drive body. Your engine compartment's very short and it's very forward. Looking at a lot of the other cars, especially Toyotas, there was so much more overhang. I think the seat position's going to be nice given the door opening. That's got to come out, obviously. I haven't tried to fit the Honda back seat to the Rambler. I'm not going to bother, since pretty much all of that's going to stay. That's going to go, unfortunately. We'll figure that out. So tomorrow, I need to get out here earlier than I have been. And I need to take this front clip back off and go put it someplace. I need to start cutting. I need to go do some more measuring, some fresh measuring, compare it to my old measuring, and then I need to cut this piece off. I need to cut that off back there. I need to cut the corners, but I got to be careful because, you know, the Honda inner fender is all the strength in the front end, and it has to be tied to that cowl. It can't be screwed up. I thought I would cut all that off and just use the middle of the firewall, but only if I could tie it to the Rambler, and even then the Rambler wasn't made to have that much stress on it. So we're going to leave that intact. I have to be able to fit the Rambler around it, and I think I will be able to do that, but it's just going to have to be you can't really see too well. See, that is the extreme corner of the Honda body. And There we go. There's almost no clearance between the fender and that piece. And I can't really cut it off, but I can take a hammer and I can beat the crap out of it. And I think it'd still be pretty strong if I did that versus cutting it. Because all of this has to stay there. A lot of that's going to get hidden by the body, the Rambler body. But all right. Yeah, and the Rambler door opening is going to be way out here. So those might even be actually absorbed by the way the fender wells for the Rambler go in. Anyway, we'll deal with that tomorrow. It's obviously late. The damn cat's in here, so I got to get him out. Well, I can't close the door anyway, so whatever. I'm done. I'll talk to you guys later. Okay, I hit my stopping point for the night. Got this all hacked out. Still need to take that little piece out there. I was going to leave it there, but I think for now I'm just going to take it out. I would like to keep the remote trunk release, but it's not a deal breaker if I can. So I've been taking a bunch of measurements, checking things out, trying to measure 15 times before I cut. And so this is the inside of the A-pillars here, and they're quite a bit narrower. These inner fender wells, with the exception of the gas door crap, these will actually fit inside of the Rambler ones, because the Rambler ones are huge. And the Rambler ones only go on the inside half to the pinch weld. Everything beyond that is wide open, because all that part's still the 53 body. So it looks like I'm gonna have to cut there pretty much almost straight down, because it's the narrowest point. There's a spot there in the fender wells where it comes in and then goes back out. Is 43 inches. And so that right there will actually sit right behind the Rambler fender wells. So all I really got to do is drill it, press it, weld it, and then there's your seat brackets, your Honda seat brackets. This sits roughly halfway back on the partial shelf, at least to here, right here to this edge. So I think if I just cut an inch back, I can just weld it up to that piece, and that way I'll still have all the Honda seats. I need to test fit the Honda seats in the Rambler, make sure they're gonna go. Beyond that, haven't done a whole hell of a lot here. Tomorrow I need to kind of go through things. I need to figure out what to do about this, because this isn't going to work. I need the gas filler way back here, so I might end up cutting all that out, because I'm pretty sure the Rambler stuff's going to work, so I shouldn't have any problem with that. Tomorrow I'm going to go ahead and cut all this out. I'll keep it put aside, but it's all going to come out, and I'll unbolt those. There's no struts in this, so I don't have to worry so much about the strength there. Yeah. I measured the Honda frame rails to the outside are 1/4 of an inch narrower than the Ramblers, which is a good thing, because then I can just weld the Rambler frame rail to the outside of the Honda and have the bumper bolt points. I gotta watch out for glass and metal shards. So, what do I have under here? I don't know how the filler neck is situated. You got a charcoal canister back there. That's a problem. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to do some research, see what I have to do. That might be a problem. I haven't measured here yet to see how long this is. One big thing I do like about the Rambler is the inside trunk panel is one piece of metal. And it's completely sealed from the outside, other than around the trunk lid. But, you know, there's no openings. You know, you've got 6 inches, 4 inches, 5 inches of metal between the outer skin and the inner skin. So there's plenty of room there to not have to worry about things. So, oh man, this filler neck's gonna be a problem. Have my buddy bend me up a piece of metal to make a new filler neck and bring it out here. That'll probably have to happen after the car is assembled, which means I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do about that. I'll probably have to either fill the tank or make sure there's plenty of gas in it before I swap the body over, you know, cut this off and go from there. I don't know. I'll have to do some research tonight. I think I'm just going to leave everything tonight, and then tomorrow I'll deal with putting stuff back. Yeah, so that's it. I'm going in. Okay, so here's the filler neck issues stuff. So your vent line, so it can burp, your main line, and I don't know, some kind of emissions thing. And then you've got, I don't know if that's a charcoal canister or if that's just some kind of vapor canister. I mean, that can stay there. The nice thing is that this can all be changed. So I don't have to cut all this out. I just need to figure out where it's going to get moved to and then cut a hole to extend it out. Because this, as you can see here, it'd be right in the middle of the quarter panel. I want to be able to connect this to the factory Rambler location. And I think it'll be okay. I'm guessing somebody might have been in there before. I don't know if that's a factory clamp or not. Either way, it'll come off pretty easy. Nothing's all rusted up. Goody, goody, goody. All these little plastic clips, though, that were holding the shield on kind of went to hell. Okay, I'm going to have to fix that spot. I'm going to have to fix that spot. Just where I cut into it too much. Even though the Rambler's actually wide open in here, there's no fender well. There is a splash shield, which will stay there anyway, but I don't want to introduce any chance of rust. I mean, I don't think that this is even going to touch the skin. I'd like it to, but since there's nothing there now, I would have to weld directly to the inside of the quarter panel, which, no, I don't want to do that. So it'll probably stay just as it was, unless I can figure out a way to tie the lip to this. I don't know. Those are factory struts, or shocks and springs. I do need to be careful here on the other side as well. Yeah, okay, I think we're okay. This is a pretty nice setup here. I'm not sure if people like it better than the earlier setup or not, but it looks stronger. I mean, it's not rally spec or anything like that, but it definitely looks stronger. All right, time to get busy. Alrighty, got to get to work. I just came out here, spent 45 minutes or so on this. I got that cut off. I got that cut off, and this all trimmed out. That is going to be a problem. So from my glances and some measurements, it looks like the Rambler fender wells are going to come up over here and then way up high, and then basically they stop at some point, and then it's just wide open because the trunk is filled in. You look at this picture here. So I think that is going to be too high. So even if I take the fuel door off, I'll drill the spot welds and get the that off and save it for some other project maybe, but this needs to be cut. And so I think the easiest thing to do is just chop it, get a piece of metal inside there, weld it in place, and, you know, caulk it up, forget about it. You're never going to see that because it'll be behind the Rambler parts, but I don't want it to ever rust. I don't want it to trap any kind of water or dirt down in here between the two of them so it can rust. All that's got to be sealed, so that's going to have to be engineered and figured out. I am going to come through probably with the cutoff wheel and cut everything along. That's interesting. Oh, that's from my saw. Anyway, cut everything along this pinch weld here. Get it down as low as I can. Get rid of as much of this as possible. One, for weight. I want to keep this thing as light as possible. But two, I don't want it to end up interfering with the Rambler sitting on top of it. Same thing with all this. I need to get rid of all this. And this is curious. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. So this quarter panel had a bunch of filler in it. Not a lot. You can see. Just a bit. But you look at that right there. I don't think that's supposed to be there. I think that is what they fixed. Ooh, that wasn't good. Just bumped my forehead down on the corner there. Oh, I'm bleeding. Oh well. Anyway, no brain, no pain. I don't really see anything from like a dent puller. Anyway, I don't know. Ooh, let's see. Yeah, it got me. Not bad, but it got me. And then I also trimmed this off and got that cut out. I did want to save as much of this as possible, but it was so unwieldy. And this stuff, I had a brand new razor blade, and it was having a hard time cutting through this. But it would tear fairly easily. It's still going to be a problem because I got a weld. And I don't want to catch it on fire, but I don't want to get rid of it. And I don't want to pull all this crap apart just to make sure, you know. So anyway, if this is cut enough, I still need to cap it because I don't want any fumes, dust, air, draft, anything, water getting down inside there. So it'll just get a piece of metal welded over the top of it, crudely, because it doesn't matter. Caulked up, done. This is just there to keep stuff from falling down inside the air intake. There is a filter, but still. Yeah, so I got a little low sometimes because it's kind of hard to get in there. It was. And this is all going to need to be cleaned up because I don't want to get cuts. I mean, I am full of cuts from doing this. This is even worse than the golf cart as far as that goes. You know, same thing over here. So, I ended up with a lip right about where I wanted it. There is some sound deadening that's going to have to be scraped off. I need to get a new cylinder for my propane torch. I still need to cut those off, but I need to go to work right now, so that'll get done probably my next couple days off. Yeah. So now I just need to get this thing backed in, put away, and then I think that's it for today. I gotta get to work. So that concludes the last 2 weeks, I think, of working on this. I've been a bit under the weather, especially yesterday, so I haven't got a lot done, but it's chugging by little. And so the more results you see, the more motivated you are to actually do things. So there's a little bit more to do on this, and then I'll jump over and start cutting on the white Rambler. I'm still going to be cutting on the green Rambler, using it as kind of a mock-up. So I may end up cutting it completely up and using the quarter panels and the doors and trying to get everything kind of mocked up so I know where it's going to go before I start cutting too much on the white car. We'll see. But that's it for this video. I'll have another one up in a week or so, and talk to you then.